Hello and welcome back to DAX for Humans. My name is Greg Deckler, and today we're going to be taking a closer look at columns versus measures. Now, just to briefly review, so far we've created a simple calculated column in DAX. And as you can see, our total cost column is made up of referencing the price column and then multiplied by the quantity column. And so it calculates that for each row. Conversely, in a measure, we created this simple measure, and I'm going to change this up just a bit. We're going to use in the last video I think we ended up with max and that, so we're just going to change this to sum. We get 62.83, which is the sum of these numbers right here. Now, in a measure, as I mentioned in the last video, you always want to wrap a column reference with an aggregate like sum or max or average, min, etc. The other thing about measures that you want to do is you want to fully specify the column name. So you have there, I reference table and then the total cost column in that table. So there, a table being surrounded by single quotes, and then the reference to my column, total cost, is wrapped in square brackets, right? So every time you want to do a measure and you want to reference a column, you need to wrap it in some kind of aggregation. Now, one of the differences between measures and columns is that obviously a column has to live in a certain table. So whatever table that you create the column in, that's where that column lives. Now, a measure, however, can live in any table. So actually, I could actually move this measure around to different tables within the data model if I had multiple tables, and it wouldn't matter because again, I'm wrapping my column reference in some kind of aggregation. I'm fully referencing the table and column where I'm doing the aggregation, and so this measure can actually live anywhere in the data model. But the main difference between measures and calculated columns are, so calculated columns are calculated once when the table is refreshed in the data model. So if I were to refresh this from source data, these calculated columns would get calculated at the time of that refresh, and then at that point they're essentially static within the data model. Conversely, measures can change depending upon user interaction, so they're dynamic. So to show you a quick example of this, I'm going to create a slicer, and in that slicer I'm going to put item. And so here I have my banana, grapefruit, and pickle. So if I just pick grapefruit, for example, you can see that this measure changed. Don't worry about this down here. We'll get to this stuff in the next video. But you can see it changed to 14.97, which is 14.97, which is the total for my grapefruit row that I have. So essentially what this slicer has done is filtered my base table to just the grapefruit rows, and so now what the measure sees and is calculating across is just that filtered table. And we'll get much more into this when we talk about context in the next video. But that's the main thing to keep in mind about measures versus columns. Once columns are calculated, they're calculated. But measures recalculate every time there's any kind of user interaction within the report. So that's it for DAX for Humans. In the next video, we'll be talking about the scary concept of context. But I guarantee you I'm going to make it easy for you to understand, and there's nothing scary about context whatsoever, or really even difficult. That's it for now. I'll see you next time.